video I'm going to demonstrate how to true the muslin draped 4-dart sloper into a paper pattern. So first you want to make sure that all of your pinning has been marked so that you can take those pins out and be confident that you haven't lost any markings. Smooth the muslin out and push pin it to the table. In the smoothing, you don't want to distort or twist or pull the bias of the muslin. You just want to have a smooth muslin. Next, with a Ponce wheel, transfer the pencil marks through to the paper at all the markings. Once you have all the markings transferred, including the shoulder blade level line and the bust level line, remove the muslin. Once you've removed the muslin, you can clearly see the pinpricks from the Ponce wheel. And this is where we make use of our ruler in drawing in our straight lines. So draw in the bust level line. You also want to mark in where the apex is, which I neglected to mark on my drape. So let's go back and look at the mannequin and find what that measurement is. So back at the mannequin, we want to measure from the bust apex to the center front, which we can do easily this way. You could measure from bust apex to bust apex and then divide in half, and that is the measurement we need. So this is 7 inches apex to apex. Divide that in half, it's 3.5 inches. Back at the pattern, we're applying that 3.5 inches, finding our bust apex here and labeling it apex. The darts need to point to the apex itself. To find out where that center of that dart needs to be, measure the amount of the dart underlay. In this case, it's 2 3/4 inches. Half of that is here. Draw a line from the center of your dart to the apex. That's the center of your dart. Your dart wants to be trued, the termination point, 1 inch away from the apex. So this is where the termination point of your dart is going to be. Draw in your dart leg on this side, your dart leg on the other side, and you have trued the shape and angle of your dart. We'll do the same thing for all the other darts next. To true the side front waist dart, again, find out how much the dart underlay is. Divide that in half. That is the center of your dart. Your dart needs to point to your apex. The termination point of your dart is 1 inch away from the apex. This is one dart leg. This is the other dart leg, and you've trued your 2 front darts. Next, you need to pencil in the rest of your pattern. There are areas that need to be 90-degree corners. So center front waist is a 90-degree corner. Center front neck is a 90-degree corner. The shoulder seam needs to be a 90-degree corner. The side seam at the arm's eye and the side seam at the waist need to be 90-degree corners. However, now we're going to add in some ease. For adding in ease, I like to add plus 3 inches at the bust and plus 3 inches at the waist. Now, because we are patterning on the half, we're not going to add the full 3 inches just here at the side seam. We're going to add half of 3 inches at the side seam, which is 1.5 inches. And we're going to add that equally, some of it to the back and some of it to the front. That means we're going to add 3/4 to the front and 3/4 to the back. We're going to do the same thing down here. 3/4, 3/4, and there's our new side seam. Here at the side seam we need to have a 90-degree angle, and here at the side seam at the waist we need a 90-degree angle. Next, pencil in the waist, the arm's eye, shoulder, and neck. Do the same function on the back. So I've trued the back darts and I've cut out the extra fabric from the center front and center back and the arm's eyes. Next I want to true or balance, where one piece of fabric will get sewn to another piece. We need to make sure those seam lines are the same length and that they are balanced. So I cut this out and my waistline followed the waist tape. So I'm inclined to make sure, or to think that that is more accurate. You can see here, this is not balanced. That is where I free-handed that. I'm inclined to think that the free-handing line is probably the line that is not true. So I'm going to scoop that down and cut that away and true that so that the side seam is trued in length. We also need to add notches. If this was cut in muslin and you were in a fitting and your stitcher was stitching this together, how do you know that they wouldn't stitch the side seam this way? They could easily, unless you give them notches to say, this is the only way this seam could be stitched together. That's why you don't want to center the notch on the seam, you want to offset it a bit. The next thing we want to test is or find true, is the dart underlay, the shape of the dart here. We know that darts get pressed toward the center. So I'm going to crease the paper there, the leg that is closest to center. Push pin the tip of the dart because that's going to be our pivot point as we close this dart and cup the paper. And you can see that this isn't quite true either. So I'm going to blend a line that splits the difference that way. You can either ponce wheel that, open it, and find that dart underlay shape, or you can cut directly to the chase, no pun intended, and cut along that line, revealing the shape of the dart underlay. I'm going to do that on the shoulder seam, shoulder dart as well. It gets pressed toward the front, so I'm going to press the front, the centermost dart leg first. I'm going to pin that down, that is our pivot point. I'm going to fully close and cup the dart, close the dart, cup the paper, and here again, true that shoulder seam, cut that away to reveal the shape of the dart underlay. We're going to do that same function on the back. In truing the back shoulder, you can see how it's at an angle, it makes an inside corner and out. We know that shoulders don't actually have corners, and so we may need to true that to be a straight line and smooth that out. The other thing I want to test, true, before I cut this paper off, is the question. Does the dart on the back match up with the dart on the front? This is critical. We want this shoulder seam to be trued, meaning the same length. So from this arm's eye to the darts, they match beautifully. And then from those darts over, you can see the front is a little bit, 1/8 of an inch past. I'm inclined to think that maybe that just needs to be scooped a little bit more. So that is really good truing right here, where the length of the seam balances and the back dart intersects beautifully with the front dart. We want to make sure everything is true, the darts are closed and cupped properly. We want to make sure that the grain line gets transferred onto the pattern. And remember, the center front is on a fold, and so the grain line turns the corner and points to the center front. I always write on fold just to be very, very clear. You can clean up your pattern by erasing old lines. I like to just leave a breadcrumb trail. Shoulder, SH means shoulder, CF means center front, the apex is marked, the side seam is marked. Whose pattern is this? Well, it's mine. And we have notches. This is side seam is trued. We know that the notch matches. It is the side seam. We have the dart trued, and we need to have a grain line on the back that runs parallel to center back. Center back opens. Whose pattern is this? It's Lori's. The other thing we'll need to do is have notches from the armscye of the bodice to the armscye of the sleeve. So let's put those in now. The front notch is, generally speaking, about 3.5 inches up from the side seam, and that is the front notch. The back notch is generally about 4 inches up from the side seam, and that is the back notch. That way we can get our sleeve stitched correctly into our muslin. So that is truing the 4-dart sloper pattern.